Hey kids, glad you could make it. Earlier, if you were in service, you saw that we talked about olives and chocolate mixed together. Well, today we are going to talk about somebody who's very tricky and mixed up two things that don't belong together. Like olives and chocolate, I don't think should ever be mixed together. Some may disagree. Today we might even mix a little Twix with some hot English mustard. I don't think they belong together, but you stay tuned. But we've been talking about the parables of Jesus. And remember what a parable is? It's taking everyday items and telling a story with a purpose or a meaning behind it, to make really complicated things simple to understand or easier. Last week, Stuart showed you these 4 jars. One had plastic beads, the other had soil, another had Oreos in it, and rocks. And talked about the soil of your heart and how it could produce much fruit if it listened and obeyed to Jesus. And that's what this is all about. Well, 2 of them actually produce seeds already, or plants. Those seeds sprouted. Can you guess which ones? It wasn't the plastic. Nothing there. And surprisingly, it wasn't the Oreo. I thought something was going to show up there. But the 2 that produce seeds, from the seeds, little plants, there you can see that little plant right there in the rocks? Yeah. In Stuart's lesson, I talked about that the plant sprouts up quickly, but when the hardships of life come and the temptations, it withers because it has no root. And it'll have no place to protect its roots in a little bit. And then here's another one. Here is the plant that was in the good soil. And this one is growing well. And it will continue to grow well if it's not overwatered or taken good care of. So there's our seeds. So this week's story or parable that Jesus told has to do with somebody being very tricky and sneaking something in and mixing it up where it didn't belong. Let's look in our Bible to Matthew 13. And it says in verse 24, so that's chapter 13, verse 24, Jesus told them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a man who sowed good seed in his field, but while everyone was sleeping, his enemy came in and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. When the wheat sprouted from the formed heads, then the weeds also appeared. So what's it saying? One day a farmer went in his field and he put all his wheat seeds in the ground. Everything was good just the way the farmer liked it. But then in the night, an enemy came in and he sowed just plain old weeds throughout all of it. So that when everything started to sprout, just like this little thing is sprouting, weeds popped up along with the wheat. Now weeds are no good to a farmer. He wants the wheat. Do you know what we use wheat to make? We use wheat to make bread, and I love making bread. You've got to have good flour for it. You can have it mixed with weeds. It also helps us make biscuits, pie crust, donuts. Wheat helps us make lots of awesome things. But we don't want weeds mixed in. We want just wheat. So this enemy came in and snuck seeds in the ground with the wheat that were just plain old weeds. This is not going to help the farmer. And so when everything starts sprouting up, the workers say, hey, look, there's weeds in there. Should we go pluck them up? And the farmer said, nope, because if you pluck them up, you'll do harm to the wheat. But when they grow up all the way, then I will separate them. It's sort of like this, boys and girls. This is plain old sand with some pebbles and rocks in it. Just kind of like beachy sand. And here is some foam, okay? And say the foam is really the good stuff. In the night, the enemy came in and mixed bad seed in with the good stuff and put it in the ground. Now you stir this up, and it would be hard to go through and separate this. And so in Jesus' parable, He said we'll have to wait for them to come up and then we're going to separate them. Because right now it's just too hard to separate. Let's read what Jesus says in the parable. Then the owner's servants came to him and said, "Sir, didn't you sow good wheat seed in your field? Where did all the weeds come from?" An enemy has done this," the farmer replied. His servants asked him, "Do you want us to go and pull up all the weeds?" The farmer said, "Nope, because when you're pulling up the weeds, you may uproot the weeds, but you may also uproot all the wheat too. Let both grow together into the harvest. At that time, I will tell the harvesters, first collect the weeds and tie them in bundles to be burned. Then gather the wheat and bring them into my barn." And that again was from Matthew 13. So why didn't this man want his servants to pull the weeds up? Because at this stage, much like in the parable, it was hard to tell the difference when it was little, if it was a wheat seed or a weed seed. So the farmer tells him not to pull out the weed seeds. Why is Jesus telling us his story? What is the point behind it? He's really not trying to tell us to be good gardeners, and giving us pointers on how to have a really good garden. He's making a point that's much bigger than just gardening. Here's what Jesus says later in Matthew 13. Starting at verse 37, he says to the people, "The one who sowed the good seed is the Son of Man." He's the good guy, the good farmer. "The field is the world, and the good seed stands for the people of God's kingdom. And the weeds are the people of the evil one. And the enemy who sows them is none other than the devil. The harvest is at the end of the age, at the end of all times, and the harvesters are the angels. As the weeds are pulled up and burned in the fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will weed out of his kingdom everything that causes sin and all who do evil. They will throw them into the blazing fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous, the good seed, will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Each of us has a choice to make. Are you going to be good seed or bad seed? You choose. The difference is, good seed listens to what God says and then does it. The bad seed does their own thing. So you choose. Now, Jesus is basically saying here, once again, that just like all the seeds are mixed up, at the end of the age, if we take all these things and we pour them into the water, we will see a separation. All the foam is coming to the top. You see that? And all the sand has floated down towards the bottom. So we've got the foam up on top, and Jesus is saying that at the end of the age, at the end of all time, I'm going to separate, and all the good is going to be coming up to heaven with me. And everything else, after the separation, will go to the blazing fire, which we know is also called hell. So Jesus is making a very important point, not about farming, but about the choices we make. Will we honor God and be good seed that produces fruit that's worthwhile, like wheat that can make donuts and pastries and good things like that? Or will we be like weeds that are fit for nothing but to be thrown in the fire? Okay? You can be good seed. How do you be good seed? Exactly. You listen to Jesus and do what he says, and the Father will be well pleased with you. One of the points Jesus also makes in this parable is that you and I don't have the ability to pick out weeds from wheat. Only at the end of the age will the Father do it. So we don't go around like judging people saying, oh, you must be a weed or you must be wheat. No, that's not what we're called to do. We're called to treat everybody with love and respect. And so giving them the opportunity to make the decision to be good seed too. We will never be able to judge correctly apart from God. So we don't want to go around judging people. We want to love everyone in the hopes that they will become good seed and please our Father in heaven. In just a minute, we're going to turn to some worship, and I'll see you just after that.
Come on everyone, put your hands together, join with us, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Arise my soul, arise my soul, remember this, he took my sin and he
Boys and girls, our memory verse for this week is, do not merely listen to words and so deceive yourselves. Do what it says. James chapter 1, verse 22. Here's one thing that you might want to not do. But if you want to make some weird combination at home, ask your parents first. And then if you post it online, we'd love to see you eat something that your parents approve of that's a little unusual. Here's Twix. And here is some hot mustard, proper English mustard. Or if you want to make it a little Scottish, you could take proper brown sauce and put it on a Scottish Jaffa cake. Your call. But here we go. A little bit of Twix and lots of hot mustard on there. I don't want to do this. Sorry, kids. There was no way I could eat that. Some things just were never meant to be mixed together, like the wheat and the weeds. Same with hot mustard and chocolate. Have a great week. Continue with us, learning about the parables of Jesus and the reason behind his stories.